In reading Daphne Jameson's Reconceptualizing Cultural Identity and Its Role in Intercultural Business Communication, she identifies 6 key components of cultural identity. They are vocation, geography, philosophy, language, biological traits, and class. In thinking about these components, the one that stuck out to me as being most influential in my own life is class. Now, class has 3 subcomponents. There's social, there's economic, and there's education level. Educational is very straightforward. It's kind of the level of education you've received. To me, the other 2 can be put into a single bucket, and that's socioeconomic. Basically, the values and how you were raised. So I consider myself to be upper middle class, and we grew up in a white-collar, conservative town. So what kind of views do I have? I have conservative views. I have strong views on what's inappropriate versus appropriate behavior, how to socialize in polite society, what are the appropriate manners when out in public, what are the appropriate actions, what are the appropriate behaviors. This came in full view for me when I hosted a dinner party. I lived out in New York for 2 years, and I lived out in Long Island, which is traditionally a very blue-collar area. So I hosted a dinner party for all of my Michigan friends that happened to live in the Northeast at the time, and I also invited my Long Island friends who were local to that area. So they all came over for dinner, and we grilled steaks. And one by one, as we served steaks, my Michigan friends didn't move, and they sat there and continued their conversations. But as my Long Island friends received their steaks, they picked up their steak knives and they dug in. And so what happened? Well, my Michigan friends had all been cultured to wait until everybody receives their steak before you start to eat. Don't eat until everyone's eaten. My Long Island friends weren't raised the same way. So as soon as they got their steak, they dug in. Now during dinner, my Michigan friends asked my Long Island friends a lot of questions, and they were just trying to be polite. My Long Island friends were more than happy to talk about themselves and talk about themselves with their mouths open. So again, they weren't cultured to, ask questions and reciprocate, or they weren't cultured to chew with their mouths closed. And it's not one way's right or one way's wrong. So to contrast that, I was invited to a dinner party with a friend of mine in New York who was in the top 1% of the top 1%. She grew up in Greenwich Village, and she invited me to a wedding rehearsal dinner. So I was sitting at the table, and everyone received their salads, and I picked up my salad fork, and I dug in. Well, I got looked at cross-eyed. So what had happened was, in her culture, how they were raised, no one picks up their fork until the host says it's okay by picking up their own fork. Well, the host wanted to give a speech, and I had, unprompted, picked up my fork and started eating. So I was the rude one. So really what I learned is there's two major things about culture I picked up through this. First, culture is an unspoken language of behaviors. People in the in club, take it for granted, but to an outsider is very quickly exposed in a different culture. Second, culture does not reflect intelligence. I consider myself to be a very smart person, but at that dinner party in New York, I felt very silly having not understood the rules of the game. Thank you.